This is Coder Radio, episode 268 for August 3rd, 2017. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Coder Radio, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show taking a pragmatic look at the art and business of software development and related technologies. This episode is brought to you by our two fine sponsors, DigitalOcean and Linux Academy. I'll tell you more about those great sponsors as this here show goes on. Why me? My name is Chris, but that's not important. What is important is our host. It's Mr. Michael Dominic. Hello, Mike!
Mayday, mayday, mooch one down, mayday.
I can't even keep track anymore, man. I can't even, it's actually, that's not true. I can't keep track, but barely.
Yes. That's all I want to say on that is,
yeah. Well, I am very, as they say, fired up and ready to go about today's show. We have some rather inflammatory hoopla, some incendiary hoopla.
A little bit of haterade.
Yeah, which, not from us, as well as some things that are going to get us looking forward to the future. We got some great feedback to cover this week that we're going to try to consolidate down into a few key points. And then both Mike and I have big thoughts on bots. If you're a bot doubter or a bot lover, please stay tuned because I think it's going to be something for both sides of the coin and perhaps maybe even a little announcement, something crazy from the swamps of Florida. Is that fair? Can I say swamps? Or the bayou? I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say.
No, swamp is almost 110% accurate, yes.
It's kind of weird here. It's super eerie. It's super, super, super eerie. And I have no room to complain. I am not complaining because it's way worse up in BC. But here in the Pacific Northwest right now, we're getting just this unbelievable amount of smoke that's like blasting down into Washington. So it is smoke. Yeah. Well, there's some crazy wildfires, crazy wildfires going on up in BC, and they're just producing a ton of smoke. And it's essentially all our normal breeze from the ocean is turned off. Our air conditioner for the Pacific Northwest broke this week, and so the smoke is it's thick. When you walk outside, it smells like the world's biggest campfire everywhere. And like you can't even see like all the mountains and trees that are normally here in the Pacific Northwest. You can't even see them because they're all just engulfed with smoke.
So in down here in Plant City, Florida, for the last few days, we've had nothing but rain.
Oh,
and that little creek behind my house is now it's a river.
It's a river now. Yeah, well, you should send some of that up to BC.
I should send it to you. It's like every day since I've been here was shiny and sunny.
Yeah.
And not anymore. It's welcome to the jungle, baby.
We are getting that creepy Eye of Sauron sunset every night because the smoke is so thick you can actually look right at the sun right now.
Is it possible that Legolas was right and that blood had been spilled?
It really feels like it. Yeah, it does. It's eerie too because it's like it's a heat wave. So it's super, super hot, yet it's all gray and mysterious. And then the moon has like this blood red look to it. At night, the moon
is actively angry.
Yeah, it looks like an angry moon. So that is the context in which we find ourselves gathering today.
Wait, are you saying that the moon is red?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Almost as though it were already colonized by a certain country.
Perhaps.
Where there's lots of bears.
You know what else they like over there? Kotlin. Russia.
They do love them some Kotlin.
They do.
In the Russian Federation.
Mother Russia loves Kotlin, and we have over on Medium. Posted by Ryan Cook, the case against Kotlin.
Ryan Cook of Pinterest, of course.
Yeah, an Android engineer.
One of the first actual, big startups to really, really publicly take on Kotlin. And maybe not so happy.
Now, this is interesting because, so the first thing he attacks, which I thought was a little unfair, was just the learning curve of getting up there. Like there's this, he sort of has this chart of the Kotlin hype curve and the amount of time to learn, the plateau of productivity.
Now these charts are all the rage today, right? Everybody has got a chart that they make up with no numbers behind them.
Right, it is, no numbers charts. Yeah. Thanks, Amazon. So he says,
we are making money
Yeah, selling more than ever. He says adding Kotlin to your code base is betting on Kotlin's longevity and continued growth. If that bet is right, then maintaining code and learning all will generally become less challenging. If that bet is wrong, then Kotlin becomes a tech debt.
Okay, so may I just put on my old man hat before we dig into this a little further? Please, just for like a moment. I'm in Florida. It's kind of the only hat I have left.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, it's probably it's got to be just like I would imagine sold everywhere down there.
well, first of all, this is the South,
yeah.
So it's standard issue. You get an old man hat, you immediately lose about 20 points of driving skill, and they hand you a handgun, just like at the border.
I got to get in on this.
Yeah, it is a gun. That's a whole nother conversation. But
I tell you, this though doesn't sound like such a bad deal because a hat keeps the sun out of my face. And they can't be worse drivers in Washington, so I'm in.
Well, so it's kind of like the land before time here, right? A little bit of a Sir Arthur quote, or the Lost World is what I mean.
And so you've had room for reflection, is what you're saying?
Reflection, but also like I remember the first time I ventured down here, I was a little appalled at the backwards, in my opinion, technology I found.
Yeah.
Now I've actually learned to embrace it because there is a bar around the corner from my house. And of course, using my powers of the Force, I found it in 10 seconds. I
smell liquor.
Wait a minute. Is it a tap? Scooby, let's go. Bro. Shaggy, we should call an Uber.
How you know you might have a problem when the first thing you smell in town is the bar.
Or you drive by it because it's like on the main road. But whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, by the way, when I say the main road, I mean the main road, singular. Like, it's a whole different world. It's not like New Jersey. But you know what? They're running Windows Server 2003, I shit you not, on their terminals. And how do I know this, Chris? Because they crashed. Oh. And what do they show when they crash?
Right, the boot up.
That's right. And they have the little window.
Interesting.
And that guy is a millionaire. He's doing just fine running Windows 2003.
So there could be a business opportunity to encourage him to move to something else.
Right. And the connection here to Kotlin is, I feel like even us on this show, we're a little too all for it with Kotlin. I think Kotlin's a great language. One, it's Russian.
Well,
and
my tune,
RT does pay us per episode when we mention it.
My tune changed when Android sort of said, all right, we're going to make Kotlin a blessed language. Then I was
you know what? Google is not going to do what Apple wants to do to the Objective-C developers, which is line them up and shoot them, right? Google's like, yeah, as long as you're making apps, please, for the love of God, make them for Android first or better, or at least almost as okay.
Or is it like Apple's like, Swift is the shit and is the future and everyone should go there, and Google's like, yeah, we know that Java's got problems and that we're fighting with Oracle constantly, so maybe we should have some other options.
Well, so I think it's more we're fighting with Oracle constantly, unless we know that Java's got problems. Because I would argue that actually Java doesn't have problems.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's like, let's compare it to C#, which apparently is popular again, and everybody loves C# because we're in a renaissance, according to Scott Hanselman and a few other people. That's great. What do they have in common? They're both huge legacy languages, which means that they've been adapted for all kinds of use cases. So, of course, there's stuff in there that is either an artifact of their time, which, by the way, was in Java's case, the 90s, right? And artifacts of all the different things the language has to do.
Fair. All fair.
So just like want to preface that, right? Like, first of all, if you're using an IDE, it does a lot of the boilerplate for Java for you, or it should. So let continue on, Chris. I just want to have that as like a backdrop to this guy's complaints.
A little flavor.
A little flavor.
Yeah, I think a little perspective. So then he has a couple of quick criticisms, which I don't actually think we should dwell on. And then one was the build time. He says Kotlin will make your build times worse.
Yeah, Swift's build times were atrocious too. Yeah. That goes away.
He does provide solutions with these criticisms, and his solution for that one is to just deal with it. That's his solution for that one.
Give me a cup of coffee.
This was the one that resonated with me, and we could have probably skipped right to this one. He says development stability. Our team of people who disliked Kotlin didn't dislike it because they were scared of it or because they wanted to wait and see. Or would see if app crashes to figure out problems. The simplest reason for non-Kotlin developers dislike it when there's an issue is when there's an issue preventing them from writing code and being productive. This happened to us multiple times and could easily happen to you. For example, we've had issues with incremental builds that don't work for some developers. We've had other issues where things like changing branches would always require a clean build. We've had builds randomly fail because capped, Kotlin's annotation processing tool, would sometimes get out of memory errors. Additionally, Kotlin doesn't play well or nicely with instant apps, which is kind of a big push right now, and we've seen an increase in Android Studio crashes when Kotlin plugins are enabled. In terms of development, just when you think everything is stable, another problem seems to crop up.
Yeah, so let's stop here for a second. A couple things, right? Like some of you have to clean the build. That all has the mirror image of the original Swift problems, where just like when Swift first came out, it was a huge pain in the ass to try to use Swift, right? You'd have to recompile, you'd have to clean your builds constantly. The builds took forever. I mean, it really was super hard. Now we, Apple's got that down for the most part. I'm not going to get into bridging, but there's some weird stuff. I think that complaint is almost unfair because Kotlin on Android is not yet mature enough.
Exactly. It's gonna require. Well, and that's I think that's the meta point he's actually trying to make. The conclusion is the learning curve, the build times, the development stability, and static analysis are all going to get better. That's his conclusion. So he says Google's officially supporting the language, which is a sign that things will rapidly get better. If you want to wait until they get better, that's not crazy. That's not crazy. It's never too late to add Kotlin to your code base, but it can be too late to remove it. We use Kotlin at Pinterest, but we do so knowing and living with the growing pains of the language. This post purposely focuses on the risks you should consider.
Well, that's like if you were a Swift version 1 adopter, you don't even have source code compatibility anymore.
It is good to get sort of feedback from a large scale deployment of it.
Yeah, no, it is. And I'm actually surprised a company like Pinterest even used it. Like the CTO signed off on that. That means certainly, I'm not a heavy Pinterest user or a Pinterest user, at all. But I'm familiar with the app, right? Like lots of people I know use it.
Yeah.
And it just seems like a large scale app that I would think they'd be a lot more conservative. Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe it's for just, specific functions or something new, something like that.
Well, I could see the Lambda stuff being really attractive. But like that, like having written way too much Java, I can tell you that Lambdas actually make life a lot easier. But like Java 9 has that stuff coming in a way, maybe not as good as Kotlin, but
that's always what I hear. Java 9 will do that.
Yeah. Well, and then it'll be Java 10, right? Yeah. So this was a fair point. I mean, I think the reason I wanted to include this was, one, it was super popular in the subreddit, and two, you don't always have to flip to the new thing. People still run Unity. Oh, geez.
What? That's crazy. Yeah, I suppose. Speaking of that, though, this is sort of the biggest hoopla since our last episode, the announcement of the death of Flash. 2020, Flash is coming to an end. And which, of course, leads us to the very next obvious question. Which technology is next to die? Which one is next to die? Well, the Stack Overflow blog has a little data to go through. They said to answer this question, we looked at Stack Overflow questions posted over time, the same data behind the trend tools. We considered the trend in the last 5 years and estimated the rate of decrease over time for each technology. This is public data, so they're publishing it for other people to play with. So they said we considered a technology to be shrinking if questions about it decline by at least 10% a year on average. Do you know what jumped out at me as declining? Obviously, Silverlight, big surprise, right? Flex, which is based on Flash, not. ASP.NET web framework has decreased.
Yep.
How about this one? How about this one? Objective-C has been declining as well.
See, I knew you were going to do this. I knew you were going to
Look at that. So if you see the video version right now, Objective-C is the green line, and it seems to have peaked around late 2011. And
Chris, you obviously can't read. Doesn't that say the Green Mile? Yeah. We got a dead man walking down the Green Mile.
It is actually tanking faster than ASP.NET.
Yeah, if you look at this graph, the Objective-C line is... It's not even a downward spiral. It's just a nosedive. It's just like
It looks like Bitcoin on a bad day. That's bad.
you know
man.
what? Any random Tuesday you might pick. Yes.
Yeah, and of course Swift is seeing an upwards trend. Ruby on Rails also seeing a decline there. That's the other line, by the way, which is still not as dramatic as Objective-C. Of course, its peak was never as dramatic as Objective-C either. What do you think? What would be the next technology to die? Do you think it's going to be?
So just a moment for Objective-C.
Do you think it is?
No. Yes, it is going to die, but it shouldn't. I still would argue that Objective-C is one of the best programming languages I have ever used. And if I had my way, I would simply do everything in Objective-C. I'm not kidding.
I know.
This is not a joke. It is the best implementation of a Smalltalk-like language that balances the productivity of C that I have ever seen. Anyway,
we should just pour one out on a weekly basis now.
I feel like people are sending this stuff into the show to hurt me now.
They see the Objective-C stat, they're like, gotta send that to Mike. Gotta put that in the Coder Radio subreddit.
You know what? It's getting hurtful. How about things I wish would die? Because that's a lot more fun.
Oh, let's do it. Yeah, you have anything that jumps out at you?
Obviously Swift. No, I'm kidding. But I'm not kidding.
Yeah, no.
Seriously, I really still don't like Swift. How about SharePoint?
Okay.
I have never heard a justification for SharePoint that didn't feel morally bankrupt in some way. How about Microsoft Dynamics?
Yeah, that's a monster.
How about all of Salesforce in its present form?
So these are like platforms. Yeah. The entire platforms just go away.
Well, Flash is a platform too, right? If you really think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a whole integrated system.
Jesus, I can't really think of anything that I despise that.
Real Basic.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that'd be good. Visual Basic and Real Basic. Boy, isn't that funny? Visual Basic may outlive some of these.
Like Objective-C.
Well, yeah, Objective-C is pretty old, but yeah.
You know what? I just want to say Objective-C did not die of natural causes. This was a homicide.
Yeah.
This was murder most foul, as they say.
When you look at those trend lines, it's way out there.
It's bad. MP3 listeners, you have to take a look at this video version for this week and see this line.
Well, we'll have the Stack Overflow link in the show notes too.
It's not good.
No, in fact, I wonder if it's because the high was so high. But no, it's just. But
I would argue that the primary platform vendor behind its adoption is actively trying to kill it. It's like they would argue they're not, but by promoting Swift over it, they really are, right? Like, and they're.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't believe me, take a look at this most recent WWDC videos from about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago.
Well. There you have it. There, Stack Overflow confirms what we've been kind of speculating about for weeks and months and years on this show now. It's not quite that long, but it's been a long time.
You know what? Objective-C will rise again.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. Maybe it'll go out in a blaze of glory. Maybe it'll be some big blaze of glory for you, Mike. Yeah.
Yes, one day Objective-C zealots are going to seize Moscone Hall during WWDC.
I say you console yourself in a sea of droplets over at DigitalOcean.com. Yes. Go there, create an account, and apply our promo code CODERDIGITAL and get a $10 credit where you can spin up a rig on their infrastructure in less than 55 seconds. They have SSDs for all of the disk I/O from the low end, just unbelievably well-priced droplets to the crazy high-end CPU systems. Look at these new rigs they've rolled out. They have the Skylake and Broadwell CPUs, just monsterly powerful rigs that you can get in less than 55 seconds. Same thing. You can deploy it for all kinds of different use cases: data analysis, batch processing, encoding. They have 40 gigabit connections into the hypervisor. Team accounts are available. Block storage that you can attach up to your droplets, up to 16 terabytes too. And monitoring and alerting to keep you advised when there's problems. They also have a bunch of pre-built open source applications like GitHub, MongoDB, Rails, and systems with just a great setup of Node.js ready to go with a single click. They have hourly pricing and monthly pricing available. I love their 3 cents an hour machine with 2 gigs of RAM, 2 CPUs, 40 gigabyte SSD. And 3 terabytes of transfer. Data centers all over the world, fantastic documentation, and an API you can really wrap your head around, DigitalOcean.com. Go over to DigitalOcean, create a machine, and be sure you apply our promo code, CODERDIGITAL. You could try this $5 a month rig out, 2 months, absolutely free. That's a great deal. DigitalOcean.com. Sign up, apply our promo code CODERDIGITAL, and thanks to DigitalOcean for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. Boo-da-boop, boo-da-boop, boo-da-boop. We got a bunch of feedback that I wanted to consolidate down into, hey, there's different hardware I've gotten that's helped with RSI. I mean, we've got a fair amount of that. And one that just came in just a few moments before we started by Architect is the ErgoDox, which is a really interesting looking keyboard. They say the world's most powerful ergonomic keyboard. It does look very cool. It's also open source, which is pretty neat. It's got a split design where you can really spread it out. Have you seen these ones that are more like split out? So it's like the ergonomic, but like they're completely separate units. They're not wired, or maybe they are wired, but they're not together.
They're not like joint. Yeah, I have never used one to any real degree. Have you?
No, but I am very, very, very tempted to pull the trigger on something like this. The problem is now I've heard from so many folks, so many different kinds, that I don't know which one to get. Oh, they have it with LEDs though. Let's go see what the price is.
Oh, you and your LEDs.
So what? Cherry MX Brown. That'd be the way to go, right? Is that the way to go?
So I'm back to the blues here.
So the blues are the clickiest?
They're the loudest, yeah.
They're the loudest. Oh, okay. So because they give me a lot of. Oh, geez, it starts at $325. Starts at $325 with Cherry Brown.
What's a blue cost?
So the Cherry Blue. So if I go Cherry Blue, I don't think it changed the price.
$325. So that's just $325.
LED lighting. Let's turn on LED lighting. What's that bring it up to? $355. But that kind of almost seems worth it. Oh, in black? I can get it in black? Oh, now
it comes in black, Bruce.
Oh, now, geez, that's $355 though for a keyboard. Would definitely be the most expensive keyboard I ever got. Then again, I have RSI. Yeah. I'm having RSI pains today, so.
Oh yeah, we've been getting an RSI palooza now. Like, seems like a common issue.
Yeah, it's a big one in our community, and I've heard from a lot of folks that are dealing with it, or I've heard from people that have also successfully solved it for them. And the thing is one of the things that seems to be standing out in my reading is try to address it as early as possible because it's harder to walk back. And so the question is $325 is that worth being able to continue to do my job? I'd probably have to say yes. Now it's just a matter to actually be able to practically afford it, but it's pretty neat. So Architect says he'll let us know how it goes, and if I hear from him, I think I'll buy one and just I have to take the plunge. Thing is then where do you draw the line?
You're going to take the plunge.
Do you have to put it on every computer though?
I see. I don't know if your muscle memory would be good enough. I'd have to have it everywhere. I think.
Yeah, that's where it gets crazy. But I could definitely put it on. I know there's one system here that I work at in the studio that always makes my arm hurt, my wrist hurt. So I could put it there at least and start. I know where I could start with. So yeah, I'm going to wait to see what Architect says, and I'm going to look at some of the other ones that have been sent into the show and try to make a decision on one of them. They're all about this price. They're all over 300 US greenbacks. So it doesn't really seem to be avoidable. But thank you, everybody, and I'd also love to know what you did to fix it. Because if I don't solve this problem, not only is it going to be too painful for me to do editing and things like that, but I'm going to just eventually get replaced by a damn robot. Because robots are replacing managers, and soon I'm sure it'll be replacing podcasters. How about this one, Mike? You found this over, this is a QZ.com, like one of them type write-ups. So it's a startup called B12, and they're building websites with the help of friendly robots, human designers, client managers, and copywriters, which still do a lot of the work, but humans don't coordinate any of it. It's like a PMO bot. Exactly. Holy crap. The PMO's job may be the first to get automated. Is this really happening?
Oh, that's sort of the plan here, Chris. That's sort of the plan.
Okay. So they say the future of work may have become a hot topic with the future of management possibly about to take a drastic change. A decade of research on how to automate and coordinate and other managerial tasks has focused on managing crowds of freelancers with platforms like Amazon's Mechanical Turk, which can easily... Oh, wow. Think about integrating a bot right into Mechanical Turk. Employees at a company called MobileWorks, for instance, published a paper with research at the University of Berkeley in 2012 describing a dynamic work routine system that automatically priced tasks, everything from managing a Twitter account to digitizing stacks of business cards, and assigned them to qualified workers. Multiple workers completed the same task to help check for accuracy. Fascinating right there. Stop right there. So multiple workers completed the same task. I suppose if labor's cheap enough, wherever you're getting it.
So what these guys are doing, and I just blew by the name. I'm sorry. over at not
Mobile
QZ,
Works. Yeah,
Mobile Works,
yeah.
is they have a bot that basically integrates the Amazon Turk API, and it farms out your job that you give it. So if you tell the bot, print me up, 100, whatever, proofread these business cards, right? It uses the Amazon Turk API to basically open a bunch of, if you've ever used Amazon Turk, they're like job listings, and it opens a bunch of them and fills them with multiple people. But these Turks, and this is Amazon's word, not me, so please don't get upset, are, in reality, they're actually humans, right? So at the end of the day, humans are doing the labor, but they're humans usually in a lower income region than you probably.
So you could hire 2 or 3 of them to do the same job that one person might go
right,
and probably still save money.
Right, and you A/B test against it, and you say, okay, I like this one better, that one better.
Yeah. So, So the bot's doing the coordinating of the works. You got B12, a startup that's also doing this. Also, Gigster, using a similar system to build software and websites. So they have humans do the coding, but the bots do the management. Consus, Konsus, which offers business services such as data entry and PowerPoint design, has created automated workflows that hand off work between a pool of freelancers using automated bots.
I will say I've had some experience with Gigster. So for the show, I tried to do a project through them, and the algorithm is very interesting on what it counts and what it doesn't. It actually said I was unqualified.
You do not compute. You do not compute.
I was like, no.
It's interesting. Stanford, so you got University of Berkeley and Stanford both releasing research papers on automating management. Holy shit. Wouldn't it be interesting if, we always think of the fast food worker or the factory worker as the first line of jobs getting replaced by the robots. But before we even build the robots, we're going to have bots running on hosted services that will be replacing the managers. These don't require a physical movement of a product or interaction with a customer.
I mean, really, if you have a Docker container and an Ubuntu 17.04 server with enough RAM, you could probably get a lot done, Chris.
Well, think about this, too, because these are bots that are not customer-facing. These are bots that don't require a hardware with camera and maybe imaging and spatial recognition. So you can build these much faster. And because your audience is the employee base, or freelancers in this case, there's a higher tolerance for not a perfect system, and there's an obvious chain of, well, this isn't answering, so I need to contact so-and-so in this department to get my answer. Like, there's an obvious resolution process in a company, so the tolerance for something not covering all of the edge cases, I would assume, is higher.
Right, you would think so.
So you could start deploying sooner. Is kind of what I'm getting at. Anyways, this is so these are several companies. B12 seems to be one of the companies that's at it. They say at the forefront. They say our philosophy is that anything that can be automated around a workflow will be. The efficiencies are too great not to automate. Oh, welcome to the brave future, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome.
Computer, what happened?
And just before we get any further into the big thing that you're working on, I want to share just a couple of thoughts, just to sort of lay the groundwork. To me, it seems that bots are... people probably have like sort of a smell of hype around them right now. I have to tell you, though, to me it seems like obvious. It seems like one of those things that we're going to look back, and it's just going to be so integrated with every single thing that it will be so obvious that we won't even question it. And when I think of a bot, I think of something that doesn't necessarily, depending on what it's doing, require a shit ton of resources. So it's something that could be embedded into an Echo. So Amazon could choose to have more local functionality as a way to scale out the Echo product. They could have a running piece of software that is much more capable of setting local events like timers and reminders and automating hardware control that doesn't require communication to the cloud. They could have more decision processing happening on the Echo. Or think about wearables like a watch. Right now, when you invoke Siri or the Google Assistant via a Wear device, you're really just talking to the phone, which is talking to the cloud, which is not a very fast experience. And if there's any sort of connectivity issue between the watch and the phone or the phone and the cloud, you're going to have problems. And so the more you could localize processing, the more things you could botitize, like something that can talk between my applications, something that can take data, like set an appointment at 11 a.m., and it can put it in my calendar application of choice because it knows how to do that, is going to be, I would think, obvious once these devices are just a little more powerful and bots are a little more common. And there's going to be, everybody will have different versions of bots. You'll have chat bots, you'll have task bots, you'll have automation bots, you'll have support bots. And it just, to me, doesn't seem like it's a possibility. It seems like a foregone conclusion because they're going to be straightforward to use. They're going to take advantage of this. Everybody's got an API culture that is rampant right now. They're going to integrate with workflows and into systems like Slack and GitHub. It's just too tempting. And because they don't actually require physical presence like a robot does, they don't require physical hardware, people can develop them and deploy them on cloud infrastructure or on local systems or on hardware. And it's just a software problem. It's not a something has to be aware of its environment, something has to be processing data, something has to have years of training like self-driving cars or even a freaking Roomba. It's an easier problem than a Roomba because it's all software. And so it seems to me that the market for this is going to be huge, bigger than the app market in a sense, because every single business could use this. A business the size of Jupiter Broadcasting to a business the size of Apple could use bots at all different levels of the company. It's going to change the way we just schedule out conference rooms and manage resources in buildings. It's going to fundamentally redo all of that and make it way simpler and way less bureaucratic. So I think the range and possibilities are explosively huge, and I think it's almost a joke to consider if there's a possibility of a future in them because they are so utilitarian and easy enough to piece together. I say that relatively speaking, that it's almost just has to happen. So before we go any further, before we get into the future, I want to talk about how you can start right now yourself at home. I want to talk about Linux Academy. Second sponsor here on the Coder Radio program, linuxacademy.com/coders. Please consider going there to support the show. Linux Academy is back, and we want to show them that the Coder Radio audience appreciates it more than ever. linuxacademy.com/coders. Also sign up for a free 7-day trial, a platform to learn everything you need to know about Linux. If you want to start deploying software, you should probably figure out the base system. Are you going to do it in containers? How are you going to manage the source? What about firewalls if you're running it on a web server that you're managing? Do you really know how to operate this stuff? Or is there gaps that you could fill in? Everything from the base tools all the way up to things like Azure and AWS and OpenStack is covered at Linux Academy. They have instructor mentoring full-time human beings that are happy to help when you need them. Learning paths, which are a series of courses and content when you just need to know a specific thing. Same with the nuggets, which are like a deep dive into one topic. And then they have entire courseware, which will really get you in on, say, like AWS. Hands-on labs to give you real experience in a scenario-based kind of thing, which is, I think, maybe one of my favorite hands-down features aside from instructor mentoring of Linux Academy. And then the fact that they have core schedulers that'll work with your busy schedule and iOS and Android apps. And then a whole series of study tools like study guides, lesson audio that you could just listen to like an audiobook. All these kinds of like resources that you can either use on the app or you can download them yourself and just listen offline. Brilliant. And then they have a fantastic community because a ton of our audience is in it. linuxacademy.com/coders. That's where you go to support the show and sign up for a free 7-day trial. linuxacademy.com/coders. And a big thank you to Linux Academy for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. And thank you to everybody for visiting that page and checking out Linux Academy, linuxacademy.com/coders. So that brings us to a big announcement by Mr. Dominic. I have been sitting in anticipation all episode for this moment. We've been building to this. In fact, I think we've been we sped up. We sped ourselves up so we could get to this point just so you and I could talk about it. We picked up momentum as the show went on. And a brand new site has launched. Really, damn, Mike. I mean, every time you do this, like I thought with the new Buccaneer site, you'd really done it, but this is even more gorgeous. Just a beautiful new site. I don't want to take the wind away. I'll let you say it. Tell the folks what's new and where they should find it.
So go to themadbotter.com. But Chris, we've actually been Sherlocked already. A intrepid blogger found it and already wrote a review of Alice, my new chatbot,
really?
My new project management AI bot. Yeah, I'll link it I just put it in the show notes and I'll put it in the chat.
So it's the Madbotter and the bot is named Alice.
Her name is Alice, right? If obviously we're going for a Alice in Wonderland reference, I may, Chris likes to make fun of my websites. I may have gone a little far with the Alice in Wonderland.
This is gorgeous.
Thing.
This is brilliant, really. I mean, this is really up there. This is wow.
So, yeah. So I've been, and it occurred to me that I've been doing like what would broadly be called digital agencies, basically contracting shops, for just about 10 years now. Really, and that's doing contracting. And one thing I realized was that, the future of these companies is distributed teams. It's remote work. It's, you have folks, forget about in different counties, different states, different countries, different, the whole kit and caboodle. But there's always a problem working distributed teams. So I started writing a bot, and it's been through a number of different technologies, and we can get into some of the technical underpinnings now. But what I ended up with was a bot that basically is like a project manager assistant. The line I like to use is the glue that holds your distributed team together. She does a bunch of things, but the broad strokes are Alice has a ton of integrations to GitHub, Atlassian, so that's Jira and Bitbucket, time tracking tools like Harvest, Trello, bunch of stuff. I mean, there's a whole list and there are more coming. So if you do have a need and you're interested, we can get that going for you. She pulls all this stuff together to really keep your team focused on what they need to be doing and to avoid those communication issues that they just happen in distributed teams, right?
Yeah. So when somebody somebody says, "Hey, where's this at? What's going on with this?" The idea is that you might always have
she can actually dig in. So for example, if you have Google Drive or Confluence, she will try to dig in and get that document for the person if that person has permission to view it.
That's cool. I like
so we do have that security built in there that the person
She can also, it looks like, send daily agendas. That's pretty cool. Check up on team if she hasn't seen movement. That's also really nice. You know what's nice about that is it is almost semi-naggy. And it's exact kind of nagging you need sometimes for certain teams to keep going. And it's the kind of thing I hate doing. I hate having to ask somebody where they're at. And so I will put it off and put it off. And if I just, the bot does it. Well, the bot does it. The bot's checking in. So, you got to answer the bot.
And the real killer feature I found is that if, what she does is let's just take one implementation, for example, right? Because at Buccaneer, we actually used Jira. So she'll pull on all the Jira tickets versus the project plan and say, she'll warn the managers that this project is off track by X, whatever it is, story points or hours. She's flexible that way. So she can do hours or story points or whatever. And generate, and this is kind of the killer here, generate project status reports on command. So if a client comes in and says, I want to, and she pulls your billings, she pulls your timesheets, and the project management tools into one report.
So also you say here, Alice is not afraid to nudge a client to meet a deadline.
Yes.
Is that payment deadline?
It can be payment. Now that is she can do that. That's an option. That is not on by default.
Oh, I think that's, again, going back to, it kind of lets you defer blame a little bit. Oh, the bot does that. Yeah, that's part of our system. Plus, it makes you look so legit. Like you so have your crap together that you have automated processi that do these things for you. So instead of you having to look like a dick emailing the client, your super sophisticated automated processi does it for you, which is amazing. I know that's here in the Pacific Northwest, we are so passive aggressive that there's a cultural barrier to talk about money. You're not allowed to talk about money. It's just, it is the biggest taboo in the Pacific Northwest. You could talk about pot, you could talk about sex, you can talk about booze, you could talk about but you can't talk about money. And so if you have a system that talks about money for you, I got to tell you, there is a huge clientele in the Pacific Northwest that would want it just for that feature because it just solves the problem.
She has a bunch of integrations, but let's take the Harvest case, for example, because if you don't know, that's a popular invoicing software. Once the invoice is 24 hours late, she'll actually go ahead and send the email out and say, this is a past due invoice. Please remit payment.
That's nice.
But it's not just payments, though. It's sign-offs. Let's say you're a design firm and you have design comps that you need approval for before moving forward. Let's say you're an iOS firm and you need a build from, let's say, TestFlight or Hockey app. She'll go ahead and send a reminder for that to the client.
That's really handy. Or just use that internally for, staff and stuff. That's nice.
Yep. Yeah. So she's front facing and internal facing.
So what's the revenue path for Mr. Dominic here? Like, is this something? Is this a hosted? Is this a hosted
So
system?
it's a SaaS. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I am exploring an on-site installed solution because I've had some conversations where some folks have said, well, gee, we might want this behind our firewall. But right now it is a SaaS solution. It's a per usage model, per integration. It is, and I'll be honest, the Coder Radio audience, if you email michael@themadbotter.com and you put Coder Radio in the subject, there is a very, very steep discount because I know you guys are awesome and technical, and we are just in alpha now, so we're trying to get some feedback. And yeah, willing to work with you on that. This is kind of a private alpha showing for the Coder Radio. This is an offer that's only good for Coder Radio listeners.
So michael@themadbotter.com.
Yes.
Man, I can't believe themadbotter.com wasn't taken. That's a great name and domain. I can't believe you got the domain themadbotter.com.
It was a hell of a fight to get the trademark.
That is really, it's a great looking site too. You guys should just go check it out just for that too. It's just, woof, I love it. This is a really great idea. And it seems like an obvious way to have a sustainable revenue source for something that adds value at a business layer where people are generally willing to pay for tools that make business more efficient.
Right. Oh, and for the folks who went ahead and followed the Mad Botter on Twitter and mentioned Coder Radio, you will be getting a direct message in a week with asking you for your mailing address for a free toy. Cool.
Wow. So you could have, like, let's just go crazy. And this people may be like, meh, no thanks. But let's just say people kind of find something like this useful. How possible is it for you to reuse work here for other bots down the road, or even do purpose-built bots for people's specific businesses? So say somebody comes to you and says, I love the Mad Botter. We have this system from this vendor, and they have a crazy way where you can communicate with the app, but you got to talk to them, and you'd have to get that. Would you be willing and considering that as a possible avenue for building bots too? And
so that is a second line of business. I'm actually already in one conversation about to use Alice as a baseline for your custom bot behind your firewall.
Yeah.
Communicating with proprietary systems. Yes.
Yeah, I could see that as really, just say today we didn't have JBot here at Jupiter Broadcasting. I would like to have something that tied in with Slack and a few other things, and DigitalOcean, which now we've just built JBot to do. The Beards really, helped push all that forward with the folks in the community, but. Today, starting over, I would love to start with something like this and contact you and say, okay, I see that you integrate with a few things that we use already today, like Google Calendar, Gmail, Slack, and GitHub. Could we also add XYZ, and could you tell me how much that would cost? And then you give me something that I could run on a DigitalOcean droplet or run on a server box here in the studio. Like that'd be money for us. That'd be great. So do you see this as for developers, or do you see this as maybe doctors' offices? Like who's the client here?
So right now we're targeting the digital agency niche, which is development shops and design shops, and that kind of like SEO, digital marketing folks. But the core engine can go anywhere, right? Right now, unfortunately, with limited resources, I had to pick a niche.
Sure. Well, that makes sense.
It's a business that I know very well. I decided to pick that one. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm basically betting, I'd say the farm, but I am living with the gators. So I'll say the swamp. Yeah. I'm betting the swamp on this one.
Gosh, it's just what I was talking about though, before we even got into this with bots. I can't really afford to hire a PMO here, but I could see how having somebody manage all of these spinning plates could be really useful. And, I would love to supplement that with technology. I mean, it probably wouldn't fully replace a PMO, but if I could just get a few functionalities like that to help us operate a little better, and already being a more technically inclined operation, I'm really thinking this is the future. How did you land on this? Because I know you and I have been kicking around bots since Microsoft and Slack have been, a gleam in people's eye. So we've been kicking around bots for ages now, and I think one of the things that you and I kicked around a lot is, how the hell are you ever going to build a bot that's going to be able to sustain a revenue that will, lead to future bot development? Like, how do you ever land on that? Seems like for ages you were kicking that question around. What happened? What changed?
A lot of tears, a lot of pain.
Yeah, a lot of.
So one, I had this need, but two, you and I were pretty early on the whole bot thing, and I truth be told, I did try a version of something like this a couple years ago, and I never released it because the technology just wasn't there. I mean, it was, for lack of a better term, the bot was not intelligent enough.
It was like just a technology experiment.
Right, and it didn't hit the level that I thought was worthy of any kind of marketing.
I've got several projects like that myself that I work on and go, it's just not there. Yep.
Yeah. So things changed when my dog started barking.
Yeah.
Because there's a thunderstorm just started.
Rikai thinks you were inspired by the majestic J-bot.
The majestic, there was a version before Alice called the Jar Jar bot.
I think I recall.
I almost unleashed it into the IRC.
Right. Yeah.
Very happy I didn't do it.
I think I recall hearing about that.
I held back, but no, you know what? It's funny if we want to get deep into the technical stuff here. My dog won't stop barking forever.
So go ahead.
It's actually written using the Lewis engine, which Lewis is the linguistic universal. Ooh, I can't remember right now. It's actually a Microsoft research project.
Okay.
Oh my God, the acronym is terrible. The Language Understanding Intelligence Service.
Whoa. Yeah, that's a hell of a name. That's a Microsoft name. That's got to be.
What it is, and I went through a whole bunch of these. It is, for my money, the best publicly available natural language processing service. So that is a component that I'm using. And for the general botiness, I'm using a aggressively modified version of the Microsoft bot framework, which is actually completely open source.
So this is sounding like it was actually some pretty usable stuff. Looking back now, would this have been possible without the Jar Jar bot? Like, did those aborted technology projects that you worked on internally, were they necessary to get to here?
That's super interesting. I mean, I would say the Jar Jar bot certainly showed me the limits in some of these easier technologies, right? There are things like API.ai.
Stuff that might have been more attractive on the surface.
Well, there's like the Google Actions, right? Where the Google Actions, you just go in and you type in phrases and you make those the intents is kind of the parlance people are using for bots.
Okay.
Which is great, but it doesn't give you the level of customability and control, right? Where with with Lewis and the Microsoft bot framework, I feel like you have the right balance between, I'm building off the shoulders of giants here, and I'm also doing my own thing. Like someone just mentioned Tay in the chat room. The whole point of the customization is to avoid a Tay-like situation, right?
Sure, yeah,
Microsoft
absolutely.
Tay-bot. Another interesting thing is the Google Actions or API.ai would have been cost prohibitive. And frankly, very, very easy for someone else to copy because it's not really development you're doing. It's just tying into like a webhook and putting up a bunch of intents.
I don't know.
Not that they're bad, and they're also doing different things. Like Alice, I mean, this is a little bit of a secret, but we can leak this. She can actually understand spoken words already, but that's not turned on.
Yeah, I don't know. I could see that the more simpler stuff being great for automating certain just small project stuff for people that are banging out their own thing. I could still see value there. But it is interesting that you had to burn through it first to kind of see. You had to push it to its limits, and because that's also been my experience. Is sometimes what feels at the time like sort of lost, wasted time. I guess might be the way to put it. Felt like wasted time. Turns out you had to go through that to end up where you were with something that did work, and it also makes the final product a little more polished. I think, in my experience. Well, congratulations, Mr. Dominic. Thank you for helping bring Skynet and HAL 9000 in one wonderful package with delightful artwork. I appreciate that. Also follow it on the Twitter, the Madbotter Inc., at the Madbotter Inc. on the Twitters. We should put a link to all of that in the show notes just to make it easy for people, so I'll try to make sure we do that. Wow. Well, so what else? So what's next? Now just sort of sit back and see if maybe get a few people on it and find any kinks, work them out, and then start pushing it?
Well, we're already pushing it. Like I said, we have this alpha promotional offer. We're looking for a few good customers to work with us and try it out at an incredibly steep discount. And I mean, I'm waiting to see what the blogs say.
Yeah,
So,
I was just reading cupofmo.com's coverage on it, which looks. I like the headline. AI bot Alice from the Mad Botter offers agencies automation and integration. Puts it right there.
those bloggers are particularly savvy. So I was afraid the headline would be more like "Jackass who retired to Florida," something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see people were calling the show health radio or something like that? You know what it reminded me of is when people used to call it coffee radio. Remember how we used to get crap for that? Now we're getting crap for being healthy. You believe that? It's just...
Well, remember we used to do a lot more drinking on the air. It used to be like happy hour. We used to get all... You know what? People are always going to be upset.
I suppose.
But go to themadbotter.com.
Yeah. And no, it's just random. Like, can the Mad Botter help me? Can you make a bot for helping me diet? That would be really great. Help me exercise.
It'll just like say mean things to you when you order.
Just nag me.
Food.
Just send me push.
If you open like Grubhub, it's like, are you sure? Judgmental look.
Yeah. That's what you need, is something that sends me judgmental push notifications, and then we'd be all in. Well, I'm pretty excited for you. I'm actually delighted because I knew you were working on something. So it's good to see
I was deep in the swamps, much like Yoda, just hammering away in that cave. Wait, hang on.
Wait, what? All right, Mr. Dominic. Well, so give it one more plug so people can see it. So it's the Twitter's
the Twitter's at the Mad Botter INC, and go to themadbotter.com. Coda Radio listeners, if you have an agency, a design shop, or a dev shop, there is a great deal for you. So go ahead and fill out that contact form.
Yeah, or email them directly, Michael at themadbotter.com.
I'll give you a hint. The deal is 50% off.
Wow. It is getting better by the moment. Follow me on the Twitters. I am at ChrisLAS. You can follow the network at Jupiter Signal. What else? Anything else you want to mention, Mr. Dominic, before we run?
No, that's it.
All right, darling. Well, thank you very much for another great episode. Congratulations on the big release. Very excited for you. Very excited.
Have a great day.
You too. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Why don't you join us live next week over to jblive.tv for that shenanigans. You can get the time in your local time zone using a very primitive bot, maybe, over at jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. Email us at /contact and visit the subreddit, easy for me to say, at codaradio.reddit.com. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you right back here next week.